Since this is a relatively short video, I'm going to be using my cell phone and I'm going to be in my room. So as you can tell, I cleaned up the front end of the base. And that's really the only thing I did to the base. The only other thing I did was build these little guys right here. These are what's going to hold the turrets and also be where I have the speakers in them. I was initially going to use the speakers from the amplifier that are relatively small, but considering how big this box is, I decided to actually go for these, since they do get louder and they'll be able to they'll be able to actually sound a bit more nicer in a bigger box than in a bigger enclosure than what I normally use. But with that said, the reason why they're this big is so they can properly accommodate the turret. So let me go and get the tripod so I can actually show you what I mean. So here's what I mean. So I basically attach them like this, and they go like this for the most part. Now if I go and grab my turret, now again these are not fully attached yet, but if I grab the turret and place it about the height it needs to be, and it actually goes right about here. And the reason why I have it this far is so that when they turn, they actually don't interfere with Kongou's feet and or arms. Now they might actually interfere, but it looks like for right now it's just preliminary, which I'm just moving by my hand. It might just come very close, but it shouldn't interfere. Now of course you can probably understand why I went for the shoot, because if I had it back like this, it'll interfere with her leg and it'll interfere with her butt, which I really can't have happening when I'm actually at my local conventions. I want this thing to turn as smooth as possible, hence why I have it jetting out so much and why it looks a bit bulkier than it needs to be. But when it comes to this monstrosity I built, I don't want to actually hot glue this thing to the base. One is for the fact that one is for the ability to do repairs. And sorry, I've been up for a while. My autism and sleepiness do not mix. When it comes to the main reason why I don't want to hot glue these is for transport purposes. Because the cars we have, we have a pretty big car, but it's still a tight squeeze to fit one of these life-size figures into the car every time I go to the convention, at least once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. So as you all know, I try to make these things as breakdownable as possible to make it a smaller piece when it actually goes into the car. So how am I going to actually make these connect to the base? Well, I'm going to use some pretty powerful magnets. I can get a 10-pack of magnets of this size. These are rare earths, and for their size, these things are incredibly powerful. I have ones that are just like this, but they're thinner. They're like half the thickness. They're powerful, but considering how heavy this is going to get when it's all done, I still have to make another little piece to attach the second turret and whatnot. So this thing's going to get quite heavy. So I'm going to need at least 8 of these very powerful magnets to properly get this thing to attach to the base. 2 for the top and 2 for the bottom. And that should be more than enough to keep this thing planted onto the base. And once all this is finally done and complete, the one major thing I'm worried about is that freaking car I have. I don't know if we'll actually be able to tow all this at the convention, because it towed her just fine and it got to a good speed. But I'm putting a lot more weight into this one than I did the last time around. So I have no idea how hard I'm gonna be pushing the motors and the gears in the truck. And the one thing that currently right now I can still buy it off Walmart.com and apparently even in their stores. But there will become a time where they'll most likely stop selling that thing, and since that thing is from China, I really don't want to go to AliExpress to buy a replacement car if I accidentally burn out one of the motors or burn the thing out and whatnot. I know I got a good ESC on it and whatnot, but still, the motors aren't. They're little toy motors. They're not hobby grade motors, and the gears, for all I know, are plastic. So I have no idea if that freaking car could actually handle the amount of weight that I'm putting onto this thing. But I'll eventually find out. I mean, if anything, I'll have it. I'll rather have the car break down in my neighborhood prior to breaking down at the at my local convention. Because once I get done with this thing, I'm gonna take this thing outside and at least run one lap around my neighborhood. And considering that this is my neighborhood, one full lap is a quarter mile. So if the car can survive a quarter mile without any problems, then it should theoretically survive the convention. Especially considering if I'm doing the quarter mile around my neighborhood, I'm going to be legitimately pushing the car to make sure something busts. I'll rather have it bust now instead of later. So with that said, that's pretty much how far I've gone with this build so far. And luckily I kept this video under 10 minutes. Thank freaking God.